Hello and welcome again, everyone, to the Tuesday Night Smite podcast. We are at episode 3 today, and my name is Robi. I welcome you all. Here with me today is just Sabo this time around. Psycho can't be here, unfortunately. He might still join us later on, we don't know exactly, we'll see. And what we're going to talk about this week is obviously the third week of SPL play in the summer split. And for that, we're going to start again with the EU region, and this time around, I'll have to be the one doing that. So, EU. And, well, what is there to say about EU? We had a lot of games this week, obviously, and we had a lot of sets where we sort of had a clear overdog, if you can call it that.
Yeah, clear favorite.
Yeah, and pretty much most of those turned out exactly the way I was expecting them to. If you look at the different sets we had, right? So we had only really two upsets that happened, and those are the ones that I think are mostly worth talking about right now. And on the one hand, that was the split between Poppies and Rival, and on the other one, it was Rival beating Enix 2-0. Sabo, what did you think about those games?
I think coming in that most people would have expected Rival to make 4 points like they did this week. But if they were going to find a split against anybody, it would have been Enix. But they ended up 2-0ing Enix and splitting with the Poppies. That being said, it was a good set with Enix. Rival was just able to find the 2-0 over them, where game one against the Poppies showed up and how else do you want to say it? They just outplayed Rival in that first game. I think it comes down to the picks and bans portion of it. Poppies just had a better draft and played or executed that comp nearly perfectly. Rival has been beating the teams that they have been beating because of their picks and bans strategies, and the Poppies did not allow them to do that in game one.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about that I saw on the Reddit and on Twitter, etc. Especially the Kalas Athena pick into the Ganesh that didn't really end up working out, because Kalas had a terrible game that set. The first game in that set was a terrible one from Kalas, honestly. And yeah, I think it's fair to say that they just got outdrafted. I think that sums it up pretty much. There's probably some more intricate stuff behind it, but I think that is the main point you have to look at. That the drafting phase in game one was just a lot better for Poppies than it was for Rival.
Yeah, it's not like Athena doesn't work against Ganesh, but Ganesh can do a lot of stuff to counteract what Athena wants to do. Obviously, he can't have the global presence Athena has, but if the follow-up off the taunt, if you don't catch Ganesh with the taunt, he can silence out the follow-up, and the taunt becomes completely useless.
Yeah. Or he can just silence out the taunt in the first place, right? If she dashes in, Ganesh is there, he can just silence her, and everyone can get out of range of the taunt before it even goes off.
Yeah, but that doesn't put the taunt on cooldown. I feel like most.
Yeah, sure it doesn't, but if people can get out of range, your initiation is just ruined, and you're sitting there without an escape, and then you're in big trouble.
Yeah, and then game two. I mean, who saw Gep Solo coming?
Yeah, that was my highlight almost of the week from the EU side, was to see Deathwalker just bring out the Gep Solo and just completely destroy everyone.
When are we going to stop being surprised by what Deathbringer brings out or Deathwalker brings out? And that's all. Like,
Uh,
I think he brings out some weird pick every week, and we all act surprised every time he does it. But this is something you expect from Deathwalker at this point.
well, at some point, he's not gonna have any weird picks left, right? And
So,
I think I was at that point expecting him to not have anything left, but he did. The Gap solo.
well, we still haven't solved the Ganesha solo yet.
Yeah,
I'm still saying that that's a thing that will work. Let's just see who pulls it out first. I'm looking at Divios probably because he likes to pull those things out, but uh, EU goes first. Maybe just simply because they get to go first, we'll see Ganesha solo and EU first.
yeah, maybe.
Deathwalker, I would have said Zelia, but Zelia's no longer on a team. But Deathwalker's the new Zelia, but only a better player. Zelia brings out these jank picks, and now we see Deathwalker do it. I mean, what else is there to say about the guy? He's probably outside of Variety, probably the best solo laner in EU.
Yeah, I think it depends
Make the
on
case.
how you look at it, right? Because you have
Yeah,
either
you can make the case for Demi being number 2 or even up there with Variety, but Demi really plays the support type solo lanes where he's not going to be the flashy player. He's just going to do his job for the team. Deathwalker really, Geb solo is not. Well, Geb solo is the definition of support solos, but
you know,
not something you expect.
I describe Dimi as a bit of a different player inherently, just because of how he seems less impactful in lane than the other top solos like Deathwalker and like a Variety are. But he can definitely have more of an impact in the team fights, in my opinion. And I think I would rate those two at about the same level, Deathwalker and Dimi. But in terms of in different regards, right? Because I think Dimi's just way better at team fighting than Deathwalker, and Deathwalker's way better at laning than Dimi.
Well, Demi also takes these losing matchups when going into the laning phase
Yeah,
because
yeah, that's certainly part of why he's worse at laning, right? Because of the picks as well.
and we're not saying he can't play these picks, these early game Bellonas and Osiris's and stuff. It's just he prefers, or he decides not to be able to help his team out. And 2-time Smite world champions, who are we to argue with it? It works. It's worked for them in the past. With players like Adapting and Yemen and Emilito also on the team, Demi doesn't have to shine. Deathwalker, though, he's got a solid team around him, but he's definitely the star of that team. Collis, Vogue, Wolfie, Ice Ice Baby, all solid, all great players in their own right, but they play more of, how do you want to say it? More of a role playing. They're role
Yeah,
players, and they're very good at their roles. Deathwalker's the star of the team.
yeah. I feel like his overall level, his average level, is higher than the other ones. Maybe Vote's getting up there now. But I still think the others can have those carry performances. I think we've seen some from Ice Ice Baby in the split already, and obviously from Vote as well. But Deathwalker just has more consistency in those, if you ask me.
He has a bigger impact in the game than the others. I would say. Consistency. The team as a whole is pretty consistent performance from every one of their players. The impact that Deathwalker brings to that team makes him invaluable. You heard the casters talk about how in the Enix set is that if they were to switch solo lanes and Ducky went to Rival and Deathwalker went over to Enix, that it wouldn't work because of the way the teams play. And the main reason they gave behind that was that Deathwalker played aggro heavy, very fight oriented, wanted to fight everybody, and Ducky was more of the team thing, the team fighter, and that Rival had enough of that quiet team setup potential.
Yeah, I think that's something that marks those players we consider to be the top of the top to some extent, is that they have this carry potential, right? That Deathwalker has, precisely because they are aggressive. Even if you look
Yeah,
at it from a different angle, where you can still recognize Timmy as one of the best solos in EU, you have to admit that players like Variety and players like Deathwalker can specifically have this higher impact because their aggression allows them to, because they might take fights that aren't always favorable to them, and they can still win those somehow.
yeah, it's solo lane in itself is a very mental lane. You got to be willing. I mean, we hear it all the time. You got to be willing to fight, but you also got to be willing to lose the lane the right way. And so, Variety and Deathwalker, they're willing to fight. They also know how to lose the lane the right way, but their aggression keeps them from losing the lane more times than not. Whereas Demi, more than comfortable losing lane, is there for the late game. It's why he plays gods like Amaterasu and Sun Wukong. And even though Sun Wukong doesn't necessarily lose the lane, he's got very good wave clear. He plays more of the disruptor in the late game, and it's just what Demi likes to do. I mean, with a player like Adapting and Emilito that are just going to go aggressive all game long, you need somebody like that. You can't have 5 people going at going full speed the entire time. You have to have somebody that says, slow down, we overextended, we lost the fight, we need to pull back and set up for something else. So there's 2 different types of solo laners. I don't think we're necessarily calling them one's better than the other. It's just what the team needs.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make, is that a team needs a certain balance between these aggressive star players and just the role players that a team can rely on. And I think Energy's always had a good sort of level between that, because you always had Demi as a sort of role player, Adapting, and Emilito as the potential hard carries, and Emilito at times even as a role player himself, and Yaman also rotating between the two, with Rafa obviously also being a role player himself. I think it's part of what has brought them success in the past. Yeah, so I think there's definitely a certain importance to how your team is balanced around these 2 types of players that you can have, because the same thing that applies to solo lane to some extent also applies to the other lanes, obviously.
Yeah, balance is the key for most part. I mean, you look across the league. Take Dignitas, for example. We've already mentioned Variety is that fighter But you look at the other. Well, really, if you ask me, it's just Trix Tank and Zeros or Zeros, however you want to say his name,
Yeah.
that bring the balance that where Arkle and Cuvo Fred, very much like Variety, they're pushing the gas pedal to keep moving forward. Trix and Zeros are that balance that brings them to the team, and that's why we see Dignitas undefeated right now in the summer split.
Yeah, that's definitely also something worth talking about. While we're on the topic already, is that Dig this week they beat Poppies 2-0, and that leaves them at 12 points with 4 victories, 0 splits, and 0 losses. So they are still looking extremely good, which is insane.
You look at their upcoming or their remaining schedule. They got basically the gauntlet of who's who in EU. They got Energy, Rival, and Obey. Could very well have already clinched their spot at DreamHack. I mean, with 12 points, you got to say it's pretty much a safe bet that they're going to make it to DreamHack. But we've seen them against the lower teams, and now we get to see them against the upper teams and how they perform. And this could really tell us what we can see from Dignitas at DreamHack. Because if they split or even find some 2-0s against, say, Energy and Rival, they look very good going into the DreamHack. If they find some losses to these teams, and it could spell disaster for this team going into DreamHack, because you want to go into Valencia with as much momentum as possible, and we're gonna have,
especially a team like Dig that relies on momentum somewhat, needs to do that because well, they rely on it, as I just said, right?
Yeah, it's going to be very telling these next 3 games, or these next 3 sets. It's going to be telling what we can expect from Dignitas at DreamHack.
Yeah, I think one thing that gives us a bit more insight now is, now that Rival has also 2-0'd Enix, just like Dig did in week 2, it kind of leads to questions about Dig's actual level, right? Because they've now beaten the 4 lowest teams probably in EU, all 2-0. It really raises the question where their level actually is and how they're going to perform against the other teams that are in this top 4 group right now.
Well, you want to do what you have to do against the lower end team, since that's exactly what Dignitas did. They didn't drop a game. They looked good in doing it. 12 points, undefeated. They did exactly what they needed to do. Whereas Rival did drop games to Poppy. They split with Energy, but they dropped a game to the Poppies. That's not a good sign. And I'm not saying that it wasn't Poppies playing really well. It's that you want to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And Dignitas did that. Rival did not. And so Dignitas, going into these next 3 sets, are just playing for seeding, I think. I think they are already pretty much secured to go to Valencia. And now they're just trying to figure out, are they going to be 1, 2, 3, or 4? I don't think they don't make DreamHack at this point.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if they didn't. I don't even know if it's still mathematically possible for them to lose the DreamHack spot.
I think mathematically they're in.
Really?
I'm pretty sure they're in mathematically. Because
Yeah, yeah, I think so as well because there's still other
they're going,
teams.
yeah,
Well,
they're going to end with 12 points. Like the the fewest amount of points that they get in with is 12 points. I don't think any. You might see them finish fourth with 12, but I don't see anybody else getting over 12 other than Rival, Obey, and Energy. I'm just looking
yeah,
at the other team schedules. Enix has got games against Elevate and Energy. They 2-0 Elevate. Energy 2-0s them. Enix still ends up with 10 points, and Dignitas is above them. Um, Poppies
yeah,
and Burrito can't really not make it. Elevate the long shot, but they got 2 games against Enix and Rival. That's only if they win out, they only get 10 points as well. So Dignitas setting at 12 at this point, I think they're mathematically locked in.
yeah. I'm not entirely sure about that. I think we're gonna hear about it on Thursday if that is the case, right? Because they're gonna mention it in the SPL. But I'm not entirely sure if there's still a scenario, if a scenario still exists where where 4 other teams could end up above them. But there might be. But a topic we've just touched on, that you've just mentioned, was Enix. And going back to their set against Rival, you said that you expected a 2-0 for Rival or at least a split. I think. Did
Yeah.
you? Yeah, good. I see that a bit differently, actually. I'm pretty sure I predicted a 2-0 for Enix in that set. Also on the basis of how Rival looked on first day against Poppies, losing their first game of the set, obviously. But still, the least likely result that I would have expected was a 2-0 to Rival. So I was very surprised to see them manage to do that.
Well, I did pick Rival 2-0 over Enix, but realistically, my thinking was Enix can split. I don't think Enix 2-0's Rival, so I wasn't going to give the 2-0 to Enix in that position. I ended up going with Rival simply because of what I had seen from them the week prior to, whereas Enix completely was a no-show against Dig in week 2, and I felt like if Enix had duplicated their performance against Rival, then there was no way that this was going to be a 2-0 for Enix. I just saw Rival being the better team, and so that's why I took Rival 2-0. But that was probably the match of the summer split, in my opinion. Until we had the A United and Noble set a day later. But
Yeah.
we'll get to that in
Yeah.
a little while.
Yeah, what I just want to say about Enix still is that I think some people, including myself, probably overrated them based on their performances against the Poppies and Burrito, because they just looked so clean in both of those sets, if you ask me. Oh, and obviously they
And they
also
did,
split against Obey.
yeah, they split against Obey. I mean, the team Enix. Look at the names on their roster. They have a very good roster, a roster that can lead them places once they grow as a team. But I think we did overestimate what they were able to do against the Poppies and Burrito when they really hadn't faced anybody yet outside of Obey.
Yeah. Like I took the result in week 2 against Dig more as a showing of the actual power level of Dig compared to the rest of EU, because I was already expecting Dig to be one of the top teams. And now that conclusion that I drew from that match has kind of changed, obviously, because what we saw from Enix seems more accurate to their performance against other teams now, with the 2-0 against Rival, with the 0-2 against Rival, and Dig's 2-0 over Enix is suddenly a lot less impressive, right?
Well, I want to say Enix looked good against Rival. They couldn't find the wins. Enix didn't play bad at all in that set. It was just more of, it came down to Rival winning these later game team fights around Fire Giant and around the Portal Demon. It wasn't anything that Enix did terribly wrong. So you bring up the set against Dignitas they had the week before. Yes, it does show you just how strong Dignitas was. And we go back to what Dignitas' schedule looks like going forward. Energy, Rival, and Obey are the three remaining games on their schedule, and if they are able to duplicate their performance against Enix, against those teams, then they're in a good spot. You're right. It just tells you how strong Dignitas actually is.
Yeah,
I don't want to say.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm excited to see how those matches are gonna go, because they could really shake up the seedings or the rankings at the top of EU right now.
Well, I guess the only other thing we haven't touched on yet is Elevate 2-0 Burrito. I don't think anybody saw Elevate winning in such a dominant fashion, but I do think a lot of people had Elevate 2-0 Burrito. Anything you want to say on that matchup? I mean, because Elevate did lose, I believe it was 0-2 to Energy later in the week or on Saturday. But they looked very good against Burrito on Thursday. So
yeah, I don't think you have to be ashamed of yourself for losing to a team of the caliber of Energy. And I think the more important part for Elevate is that they can clearly distance themselves from the teams being that we would rate behind them, right? Because they actually lost to Obey, by the way, not to Energy. But that's a detail. It's the same thing, right? Losing to Obey is just as not shameful as losing to Energy would be. But I think
take any of those four teams at the top, and they're interchangeable to these bottom three teams. Like Elevate, can lose 0-2 to Energy, Rival, Dignitas, Alliance, or Obey. It doesn't really. The teams are interchangeable when you get down to the rest of the Europe.
Yeah, Elevate's just always going to be a clear underdog against those teams. So that's why there's no shame in losing to them, right? Because you're not expecting to get points from those matches. At least we are not expecting Elevate to get points from these matches. But what I think the important part is that with this 2-0 over Burrito, they've sort of solidified themselves as being a step above those bottom two teams, even though they split against Poppies in the first week, obviously. But we've seen Elevate grow as a team since, with the addition of Cherio as well. And I think it solidifies them, the 2-0 over Burrito, as I said, as the clear 6th ranked team in EU right now.
Yeah, at the very least they can avoid relegations.
Yeah, they should be able to. I think that is the minimum goal that Elevate needs to have for this split. And they're on a good way. They're on a good path to achieving that goal, right? Which is what I think is good for them.
Well, they don't have any more matchups against the Poppies or the Burrito. Elevate's next 2 games, or yeah, remaining 2 games are Enix and Rival. They could split with Enix. I see them splitting with Enix, which will, they'll end the split with 5 points. And the Poppies, Energy, and Burrito realistically are not going to take a game off Energy. Burrito could find their first win. And I'm not saying 2-0, I'm saying actually win a game in a set against the Poppies. So, Elevate, with 5 points, they should be able to avoid relegations. But it also takes me back to what I was saying about Dignitas. You have to beat the teams that you're expected to beat. Elevate, they looked dominant in the game 1 performance against Poppies. They had a letdown in game 2, but they looked dominant against Burrito as well. And just got to do what you do. You have to beat the teams that you're expected to beat. I think Elevate pretty much solidified themselves in that 6th spot with that 2-0 over Burrito. Or maybe not so far as the standing goes, because Poppies could still realistically jump ahead of them, but just as a spectator, as a fan, I think we're both in agreement that Elevate is better than the Poppies and better than Burrito, regardless of what the record shows at the end of the split.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. There's just one thing that I'm still a bit worried about with Elevate, and it is honestly Nulissa's God pool right now. Because there has only been one God, in my opinion, that she has really, really looked amazing on, and that one has obviously been her Giannis. And the question I have is just what else has she got, and are the rest of her mages really at a level where they can contend with the teams ranked above them?
We saw her try to play Nox. That didn't really go well for her. I think you're exactly right. If she's able to get Giannis, the team looks so much better than if she's on some other god.
Yeah. And something that's probably worth clarifying here is that it's not specifically because she is a ton better on Giannis than she's on any other god, but just because it also synergizes so well with how the team in general plays.
Yeah, Giannis is that get out of jail free character. Fire off your ultimate, and you're across the map in less than 5 seconds. You're all the way on the other side of the map. And with Cherio and Jermaine and Dart, yeah, it was Dardes, yeah. Forgot the sports name there for a moment. But with as aggressive as they like to play, having her on Giannis to bail them out and to get them out, or to aggress. We saw what she was against Burrito when she chooses to play aggressive with Giannis, how good it can be. But I think Giannis is the get out of jail free card or god for Elevate, and Nulissa just plays it so well that the team really synergizes well with it when she's on it.
Yeah, I think that's precisely why it fits their playstyle, right? Is because they are so over aggressive, and if you have that get out of jail free card in your back pocket, that aggression is actually justified, which otherwise it sometimes isn't, and it sometimes leads to the downfall of Elevate.
Yeah, she's going to have to show us something other than Giannis. Because all the other I think she played Scylla once this week, and it didn't really have the effect that we're used to seeing out of Scylla players. I've mentioned the Nox was not very impactful. In fact, it was probably one of her worst performances of the split. But Giannis, we have to see something other than Giannis. We have to see a success the team finds some success with something other than Giannis, because they're just not going to let her have that.
Yeah.
If you know that if you know that they pick that if you ban Giannis against Elevate, that Elevate's not going to have the impact that is really going to be what they want to do, then ban it out. It gives you a better shot to win.
Yeah, like that is precisely it. Honestly, that if she is so much better on Giannis than on any other god, it justifies a ban. And once it justifies a ban, you're in trouble if you're Elevate, because if your playstyle is so heavily based around having that get out of jail free card and you do not, it's just not gonna work.
Respect bans are a thing. We've seen them for 4 seasons, and season 0 now. Respect bans are very much a thing in this game. Most other people have other picks that they can turn to, and we just haven't seen that out of Melissa. So if Giannis is the only thing that the team is having success with, respect ban it out. Even if you don't think it's meta right now, take it away from her, because Elevate looks like a completely different team without Melissa on Giannis.
Yeah, honestly. I think one thing that is going to be interesting is to see if the Giannis starts getting banned out against Elevate, what other picks are they going to have that fit that sort of playstyle, right? Because we've seen other utility mages in NA, for example, Mad Yankee, who had a lot of success on Isis, have found success on a different utility mage, namely Agni. So do we think that Nulissa could go into a similar direction with her picks in case the Giannis is gone?
Well, you look at the impact Giannis has on all the games he's in. We've mentioned it's to get out of jail free. It's the aggressive. You can play aggressive with it. What other picks in the mage role can fill that same niche? You mentioned the Agni, who is a very safe god from a distance. Does not have to be up close to do his damage. I could see Agni working out. I don't necessarily see Isis for Nulissa.
Well,
not that I don't think she can play it, but it's the one thing Giannis and Agni have in common is that they can do their damage from a very safe distance. And you look at the other mages that can do that. I'm thinking maybe New Wall comes back.
yeah.
You see Nox. Nox can quote unquote do her damage from the distance because her ultimate, that big purple ball of death, can hit you from halfway across the lane. She can jump inside somebody to escape. I understand the Nox picks from Nulissa. We just haven't seen it work. She did, very publicly stated that she did date Annister. I think they were living together, and we know Andy likes Agni, likes Raw. These are something we can see her pick up as well.
Yeah, I think those are some gods that she could go into, or just that she could turn towards if the honest bans start coming through. But that is really a hypothetical scenario for as of right now. So, is there anything else about EU that you would want to talk about? Or are you excited already to switch over to NA?
I'm excited to talk about Noble. I think we've given Europe plenty of time. I think we need to go ahead and jump over to the stars of the week, really. and that's Team Noble or Noble Esports or whatever their name. Yeah, Noble Esports is what they're officially called. Just jumping over to them, what an amazing week from them. I mean, holy crap, did you see either of those two games turning out the way they did?
I honestly did not. I was expecting this to be another 0-4 week for Noble, and it obviously ended up the opposite way completely.
I mean, I said it last week. I said it, I believe, week one. I liked what I saw from this roster. I did not expect it this early, especially against these two teams. And let's start out by saying ALG and E United did not play bad. They did not look bad in either of those sets. Noble played amazing. Like, the best we've seen from them.
Yeah, the
And
level
so,
the level they've gone up since it's between those 2 weeks from week 2 going to week 3 is insane. Like the difference between those 2 weeks is an increase in performance that you can honestly not expect.
yeah, Noble surprised everybody this week. ALG is kind of this will they, won't they team. Are they hot or are they not? And, we just, the talent, from what we saw previously, we thought ALG was going to 2-0 easily. And then we thought E United would rebound from their performance against ALG to 2-0 Noble. Noble did not let that happen. Noble came out firing on all levels, looked really good in doing so. Their defenses were amazing. I mean, ALG twice failed to break their base. E United, I can't even count how many times E United failed to break their base. The defense coming out from Noble when they were really down or behind was like something we've never seen out of anybody before. MLC still said it in his post-game interview after their set against E United is that they felt that their base defense was better than their Fire Giant fight, and that Toth has a lot of ability to damage that makes him good in defense when he's trying to defend. I don't know what else you can say about Noah. I mean, it was not really expected. This performance was not expected from them whatsoever. And it's not that Allegiance or United play bad. Again, they played well enough to win all 4 games. Noble was just better in all 4 games.
Yeah.
And
I think there are some question marks that you can put up around Allegiance's performance, because they also lost their other set that week. Oh no, they split against... Who did they split
Team
against?
AI.
Team AI.
Formerly
Yeah.
Team Eager.
Yeah, exactly. And that was also a surprise, obviously, because Team AI was expected to be a lot weaker than... And now that Satman's gone and Chapo is newly coming in, as well as Xenoctronics, obviously. But they did not look bad, and they were able to take a game off of ALG as well.
I think that's more due to ALG's inconsistencies. I don't think AI splits with anybody else above them. I think LG and Monkey Man is easily 2-0 AI. I just think ALG is... We were so hyped on them after the first 2 weeks, right? We thought, this was a DreamHack team by far and away. Well, they came back down to earth this week. All credit to Noble to where it is. Like we've said, ALG was expected to 2-0 Noble. Noble flips the tables on them and 2-0's ALG. ALG has a chance to rebound against Team AI, and inconsistencies poked their ugly head again, and they just like if the team that showed up against A United, if that's the Allegiant team that shows up, then they could 2-0 anybody in the league, including LG. If we get the ALG that shows up against Team AI, well, let's just say they're lucky that we're going into week 4, because if they played like the whole split, they're looking at relegation spot.
Yeah, like that kind of sums it up, right? The only question I have about ALG is was this a fluke, or was this week a fluke, an inconsistency, or have they been figured out? Like, have teams found a way to deal with their play style, or found a way to force them into picks that do not fit their play style?
Well, I think we'll get a good answer to that this week. I mean, this week they go up against Monkey Madness. That set alone could tell you all you need to know. That could answer your question. ALG and Monkey Madness is just as inconsistent as ALG, but Monkey Madness has played more games so far, right? I mean, I don't think anybody would say Monkey Madness is the epitome of consistent. I mean, I've seen just as bad performances from Monkey Madness out as ALG. I think the best answer to your question, Monkey Madness, we'll have to see what they do against Monkey Madness. ALG it's going to tell us a lot. And whether ALG has those inconsistencies or Monkey Madness comes in with these inconsistencies, is really going to tell us who makes DreamHack and who doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's going to be...
10 points.
Go ahead.
At 10 points, Monkey Madness, and at 8 points, ALG. They're in the number 2 and 3 spot right now. Yes, technically MM is tied with Luminosity, but I think everybody's in agreement when I say Luminosity is the best team in NA.
Yeah.
But you're looking, if this is a split, really hurts both teams, because, I mean, just looking at Noble has 2 games remaining against Team AI and Flashpoint. If they find victories like they did this week, they could end with 12 points. A split for MM and ALG puts Monkey Madness at 11 and ALG at 9. Monkey Madness will then have to go up against E United, and then ALG's final game is against Gabe. So splits really doesn't hurt. Really don't help either of these 2 teams coming up. It's probably the matchup to watch this week as far as NA goes. EU has its own matchup to watch in Dignitas versus Energy on Thursday, but really, as far as DreamHack goes in North America, the matchup to watch this week is Monkey Madness and ALG, and I think inconsistencies will tell us how we expect this, or who we expect to make DreamHack for this week.
Yeah, I think honestly it will have those massive implications for who's going to DreamHack, because if just whatever team loses, or if both teams split, they both have to start fearing for their spot, obviously, because the two other teams, in memory of Gabe and Noble, are creeping up on them right now, and they need points to secure DreamHack, and it could be hard to find those against one another, obviously, because they're both gonna need them, and only one can really get them.
Yeah, they're both in desperate needs of points if they want to go to DreamHack. Um, Obviously, they're facing off against each other. We've already said that. Don't count out E United just yet. E United, they need to get on a row and win out for them to make DreamHack. So, E United is going to be looking to 2-0 Monkey Madness. I don't think Gabe is the best team, but they're certainly not the worst team. And if ALG is as inconsistent as they have been, Gabe can split. Realistically, it looks like it could be a split. It's not hard to believe that Gabe could 2-0 ALG either. So, as far as the teams behind them, both teams are in desperate needs of points. And a split this week against one another doesn't help anybody. One team has to find the 2-0. And if whichever team loses, you could pretty much count out of DreamHack. Because it would be very tough for either of these two teams to find an 0-2 loss to each other and then pick up 3 points the next week and expect to make DreamHack.
Yeah, that would require the other team, obviously Noble, to probably lose some points along the way as well, and I do not see that happening right now. So I think Noble has a pretty good shot, actually, surprisingly enough, at making DreamHack, which I would not have said after week 2, but now I'm saying it after week 3. It's crazy.
Yeah, DreamHack is very much in the possibility for Noble. Just looking at the remaining schedule and the remaining schedules of the team ahead of them, we've touched on the other two schedules. We haven't touched on Gabe's schedule, which is a team that's 1 point ahead of Noble right now. But they got games against AI, and then LFG, and then Allegiance. I mean, Noble is realistically in a very good spot if they win out to put themselves into DreamHack. If they don't win out, they are going to need help from somebody ahead of them, or even, God forbid, Flashpoint has to split with E United or something. You don't want to rely on somebody else to help you secure your spot.
Especially not on Flashpoint.
Exactly. So, Noble, we expect them to 2-0 Flashpoint. I don't think anybody can tell you that Flashpoint's going to pick up a win at any point this season. But realistically, you don't want to put your fate in somebody else's hands. And so, Noble, if they win out, they're in.
Yeah.
But that's all you can say about it. If they keep winning games, they're in. And wouldn't have said that a week ago. I'm in 100% agreement. Even though I said I was high on them, I also said that I didn't think it was possible for them to make DreamHack, and they proved me wrong. And I'm glad they proved me wrong, because I've been high on this Noble roster since the beginning of the split, really.
Yeah, I as I said, I did not expect much out of this roster before the split, and now they have shown what they can do, and they are massively above the point where I would have rated them, and it is very impressive. Noble is looking like the most improved team of the split right now, if you ask me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, we we would have said it was Enix a couple of weeks ago, but obviously Enix last couple of weeks have not really shown us that much. Noble, they had a letdown against Gabe, but they were very much in that set against Gabe. They could have 2-0'd Gabe, or at least split with Gabe. I mean, they looked good in that set. And then they looked phenomenal this week against ALG and E United. They've put their set with Luminosity behind them. They put their set with Monkey Madness behind them. AI is not a rollover. You can't count AI out at any point. I do think they're out of DreamHack, but I think the team has enough talent that AI can make some noise here in the last 2 weeks. And then they have a game against Flashpoint, which realistically they should do well. Noble is set up very well right now. And I mean, what else can you say? Noble is, if Noble keeps playing like they did this week, they're going. And they're going to be a tough out for anybody, even including those teams in Europe.
I wouldn't go that far yet. But I'm excited to see if they make it to DreamHack, because that would be a great comeback story, honestly, because they obviously went 0-3 in the first 2 weeks.
And it would be good for the team just to make DreamHack in general. I mean, forget the money that comes along with making DreamHack from your sponsor and from everything else. Just for the players, making DreamHack after their 0-6 start, would just boost their confidence going into the fall split.
Yeah, I think that's also important for the team to allow them to stick together, right? Because if you're having this much success early on, you will not see a lot of reasons to change a whole lot of things. And we've mentioned in previous shows that synergy is an important part of Pro Smite, obviously, and sticking together for Noble will allow them to build up that synergy even more so, and we've already seen what they can do with their current synergy they have.
Yeah, the team only gets scarier from here if they build on that synergy that they were able to find this week.
Yeah.
LG is the best team in NA. Noble keeps going like they are going. Noble could easily be that number 2 team. And
yeah, I think Noble, now we've seen what they can have ahead of themselves, right? Where they can go. And I'm excited to see whether they will get there. Whether they will become one of the top teams in NA right now. Well, not right now, in the future, obviously. But they have shown the potential now to me. Now I am convinced that these players, Wowie, Webben, etc., have what it takes to be on a top NA team. And I want to see them do it now.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about a team that's on the rise in Noble. We've talked about a team that is very inconsistent in ALG. Let's talk about the other team that Noble beat this week in E United. I don't know where to go with this team. Apparently, they dominate in scrims, but they're not transitioning that to the actual live games. I mean, not that they've played bad in any of their sets, they just haven't found wins.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it just time? Do we have to give them time to, actually transition their success in scrims to the actual games, or is it something else?
I think what they I think what they're struggling with right now are two things that I can point out. I feel like fairly confidently, and one of them is keeping their head clean in the game, right? That they do not get under pressure, and that they're actually able to call that performance that you would expect from them in the sets when it is needed, right? We've seen Benji, for example, struggle against Aquarius in lane in their set against Noble, which is not something you'd expect because Benji is obviously considered to be one of the better solos in NA. He didn't really show that set, right? We haven't seen Verisial carry a game since around week 1 or week 2. I think he might have had a great performance against Eager. I'm not entirely sure. But there's an issue there as well, right? Because we've not seen Verisial call the type of performance that he can have in week 3, and it was an issue. And the second problem that I can see from United is target focus, just purely. Because there's especially one scene against Noble, which was obviously where they lost game 2 by getting wiped at Titan by one player. And if you look at how that scene started, you can see Panacat jumping onto the two players of Noble who were there. I think it was Aquarius and Wowie, and getting blown up by them because no one else was there to fight with him. That turned
He jumped on Wowie, looking to solo down Wowie. Aquarius made a great play by jumping onto Pandacat in response, really sacrificing himself to save Wowie. And we saw what Wowie was able to do, getting the quadra kill on the Titan against all of E United.
Yeah, but my main point about that scene is they had 5 players there, right? Against 2, and one of them goes in on his own. That is terrible target focus. He should not be going in alone. If you are in a 2v5, you use that numbers advantage to win the fight by going in together on one target, killing that target, and getting out.
I agree 100% because you could see the thinking behind what Pandacat wanted to do. You know, you take Wowie out and you win the game. Aquarius doesn't have the damage to take you down or take all 5 of you down. Wowie does. So jumping on the Wowie focusing Wowie was the right call in that situation. Going in alone by yourself was not.
Yeah, and that is my problem I have with them, and that is my problem that I had with E United somewhat in the entire set. Because this wasn't the only situation where we had people going in alone, or when we had people not going in together, right? The casters even commented on it, saying how we saw Verisial go in, for example, then 5 seconds later Benji goes into the back line and they don't manage to kill anyone because they can spread out safely and there is no target focus properly from E United onto a single target that they can actually burst down. And I think that really hurt them this set.
Overextending was a big issue for E United in this set against Noble.
And I think that plays into the lack of target focus though, because if you have 3 people there going onto the backline, your frontliners are not overextended, right?
Yeah, and that it boils. I want to ask you this. I think we've been through 4 games of this current E United roster. Panda or Polar Bear Mike has not had a bad split, but does somebody like Payne stop that from happening? Does the target selection, does the overextending, is that because Payne's not there anymore and that they're trying to learn without him, trying to learn what's best to do without him? Because you think Payne, the success this team found before and why they're struggling now, you could accredit it to Payne making these calls to, we got Gold Fury. If we can't get a pick before they retreat behind their red buff, then let's just pull out, get out. I don't know if who's making those calls right now, and I'm asking you: is this because Payne's not there, or is this something else?
I think it's certainly looking like this right now, because that is the main difference I see between this United roster and the one we've seen previously, when they've had success as enemy, is the lack of target focus, in my opinion. And I think if Payne was the general, as he was always considered to be, then he certainly brought some of that to this United roster. And with him being gone, if that's the one thing they're struggling with, which in my opinion it is, it almost shows you that this was something that Payne did well. And I think it's also a scary thought to think about that, because we need to see the other players grow into that role, and right now there's not much of an indication that they will be able to do that, honestly.
Well, I want to see Verizio grow into that role more than I want to see anybody else, because most teams look to their jungler to be that commanding presence, that initiation presence that can say, okay, we can fight here. We can go. This guy's out of position. We can pick him. We can do this. And is it solely on Verizio to make those calls? No, but you look at somebody like Mask for Luminosity, who Barra and Jeff have both said he has the final say in these team fights. They feed him information, and he has the final say. And with a team like Luminosity, where all the players are so well established in their roles and are so highly touted in their roles, to be deferring to a jungler like Mask is what I see Verizio could actually do.
Well, it depends. It depends on what type of player Verizio is. He doesn't strike me as the sort of player who's very cerebral necessarily, and who's going to be able to make those great calls that you expect from a main shot caller, right? And I think
who on this team can be that shot caller, because I don't see Chaos doing that. We all know Benji's reputation as a troll. I want to say I'm a Benji fan. I'm not downputting him in any way, but he's very well known in the scene that he is not. He doesn't always take the games as seriously as he should. He's a bit of a troll, a little bit immature, quote unquote, but that's expected from somebody who's only 16 years old.
Yeah, I think who's gonna have to take that role is gonna be Verizio if he can, which I don't think he can, or Polar Bear Mike, right? Because those two roles are generally the shot callers, either support or jungle, because they are your main initiation tools. Alternatively, we have seen Sapman do shot calling, I think, and we have seen what we also have seen late game shot calling is all the way back in season 2 from Reels, where I had a Fnatic Hunter. So it could also come from Panda Cat, but that is a stretch, honestly.
It's very hard to do shot calling from the hunter role or the solo role because you're alone for so much of the match. Mids can't really do it because, well, if they go in anywhere, they die. They go in somewhere alone, they're dead. So it's very tough for them to make shot calling. Chaos, I believe, is the oldest person on this team, but just generally from his role, he can't be the shot caller. Polar Bear Mike and Verizil is what it has to be. They have to take the shot calling as their responsibility, and I don't know if they have yet because target prioritization, overextensions, taking these fights after they've already taken these objectives and losing these fights off the back of these objectives is what's hurting them the most. Individually, they're all very good. Objective control, and when I say objective control, I mean before and after taking the objective, where they're hurting the most, and that just comes down to a shot caller. And the team chose to stay with Verizil over Payne Devion. So Verizil has to step up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's something you can say, but I'm not sure if he has to step up in the sense that he's gonna have to do a shot call now. If it can be better for Polar Bear Mike to take that role, right? What I think, or where I think Verizil has to step up is also individually, because we have seen these carry games from him. I think I'm gonna look for an example right now, if you give me a couple of seconds. I think a good example is against the Eager squad, where we saw him hard carry both games, basically. If he's not gonna bring anything in terms of shot calling, he's gonna have to bring individual performances like that if United is to succeed. And the issue with him having to do that is it's questionable whether he's gonna be able to do it consistently enough for it to actually work in the long run.
Yeah, somebody has to rein the team in. Panda Cat is looking to fight. Benji, we know Benji is going to fight you no matter what, whether it's 3v1 or 1v1. Chaos is more than willing to fight. I think he's a little bit more passive than the rest of the people on the team. For Riziel, his setup potential, we've seen in game 2 against Noble that him coming down from the sky with the Thorald, dunking on 4 people, and then Chaos with the Spirit of the Nine Winds hitting everybody. You know, we've seen that connection there. I want to see for Riziel step up to the plate, and it's not. You say that shot calling is not necessarily that he has to be the shot caller on his team, but he has to lead by example. He has to rein in his teammates, and whether that's telling Benji to don't fight in the situation, or just communicating that I'm getting out of the fight because I have nothing left. That has to be. I think that has to come from the jungler more than anybody else. That communication has to start with the jungler because he is so present on the map.
Yeah, I think it's, as I said, I think it's going to be him or the support. And I don't know if either of them have what it takes, which is the scary part, right? And if they're not gonna be able to bring that, I don't think this United roster is gonna succeed long term, because they will always have these issues unless they can build leadership internally, right? Which is always going to be tough, somewhat.
The talent's there. The talent is very much there. The leadership is what they're having the problem with right now.
Yeah, I think
So,
that's fair to say. Yeah,
well, I guess all that there is to do now is, I mean, do we want to talk about the Flashpoint roster changes again? I mean, Man Ray comes in for Sheikah, but that's, to me, that's more of Flashpoint trying to find something to work, something that works, other than something else. Flashpoint's desperately looking for something that's going to work, and I think that's all this is they think Man Ray can help them win.
yeah, they definitely need something. I'm not sure that Man Ray is going to be that thing they're looking for. I think they did look a bit better this week than they did in previous ones, but it was against a relatively weaker opposition, if you ask me, in memory of Gabe. And I'm not sure if that's gonna stick, right? That their better performances are gonna maintain that way, and that they're actually gonna find any success still.
Well, you saw it against Luminosity on Sunday. They have they look better with Man Ray in the mid. They were able to fight a little bit more in the early to middle game than what they used to. But LG just kind of put you just squeezed the life out of them as the game went on. Late game was very much controlled by LG in both games. It's just Flashpoint is just looking for something that will work, and that's all I see with this Man Ray roster change. That's all I see it being is them just trying to find something.
Yeah, and I'm not sure they're actually gonna find anything, honestly.
Well, let's go to MVPs.
Yeah. Do you have any?
I do actually. My EU MVP for this week is going to be Vote. I thought he had a solid performance all week long. We've said Deathwalker is the star of the team, and that everybody else is just there to bring balance to the team. And I think Vote very much personifies that. He's he's not going to get a lot of the camera time, a lot of the spotlight. But with his performances this week against Enix and even in Game 2 against Poppies is a very solid performance for him. I just think his performance really solidifies that team. And I think he just played really well this week.
Yeah.
Far
He's, he's actually my EU my EU MVP as well, because precisely for the same reasons you mentioned, he looked like probably the best member and the most consistent member of Rival this week, which is why I would definitely give that title to
that's
him.
one thing you can say about Vogue, no matter what team he's on or what he's done in the past, is that he's a very consistent player. He has a few bad games, what everybody does, but just throughout his pro career, he has been a very, very solid hunter. And then moving over to North America, it's got to be one of the Noble guys for me. Aquarius did find actually two solo kills against Benji, but I think that was more because of the Robin and the healing factor that Robin brings in that matchup against Osiris. Then I think it was Aquarius outplaying Benji. He did find success against Cyclone, which is not an easy thing to do. Stealth had a very solid week as well. Can't argue with Stealth's numbers. Even that game one against E United where he was 0-4 and 10 or 0-4 and 11, he showed up, did a lot for his team. Wobbin had some clutch revives on Kepri. Um, some amazing revives in that game too, saving Stealth twice, saving Skeledon multiple times. And then Wowie, what he was able to do at the end of game two alone could make him your MVP. But I'm looking at Skeledon 100% of the way. No, his numbers are not going to show up very well, but you just watch the games, watch the impact he had on the team, setting Stealth up so many times, making these defenses at their Phoenixes so worth it. He in game two on Nija, there was a play where he ults. He takes a lot of damage and then he ults Chaos and takes Chaos on Kukulkan up in the air with Fire Giant. And as he lands, Wowie hits the Kernanos ult to pick up the kill. That was all set up by Skeledon. And that was pretty much what I've seen all week. And who would have thought a week ago or even 2 weeks ago that I would sit here naming Skeledon my NA MVP, but he just had the performance of the week for me.
Well, in my opinion, I'm gonna give some more credit to Wowie because he just looked really, really good this week, almost unstoppable, which was incredibly impressive. And I think he had obviously the highlight play of this week with his 1v4 Titan defense, which was insane.
Play of the year.
Play of this split at least. The year is still young.
So far, it's the play of the year.
Yeah, definitely. And that is insane. Like that's why I am gonna give the MVP to him for this week, because he showed up in all games and he did his job in all games, and he went above and beyond that in the game 2 against the United, because he won his team the game, which is crazy. That play was so hype. I couldn't believe it.
You could make a case for everybody on Noble this week, so I'm not surprised that we're in a little bit of a disagreement.
Yeah.
Because everybody in Noble had MVP performances this week.
I think there are some stats actually about DNA players, and Stealth, it was third highest in damage this week, for example. So you can definitely also argue giving it to him. Yeah, there's just a lot of arguments to be made about which Noble player should get the MVP reward this week. I'm gonna give it to Wowie still, and I think you can make a case for every single one of them because they all had a great week. Obviously, because the entire team had a great week. So, is there anything else you would like to talk about, or do you have any points left for MVPs? Sabo?
I do. I want to go back to the Aquarius and Benji thing one more time, and I want to clear up by saying that Aquarius has been impressive throughout the season, and I'm not taking that fact that he soloed Benji twice away from him. I want to attribute that to the matchup that he was playing. We know Osiris is now the only god with 100% picks and ban rate throughout the entire split. We know the impact that Benji can have on him. To me, Robin really is the cure for Osiris. Osiris doesn't have that healing factor in his kit. So if you're taking two gods that like to fight each other in lane, then you have to give that the you have to give the advantage in that matchup the one that has the healing, the sustain in their kit. And so
Well, well, to be fair, Osiris has always gotten that healing factor through Death's Toll, which is now obviously has been nerfed a bit, but it's still
yeah,
a relevant thing to consider.
my point is that Osiris's sustain is very much item based. Robin doesn't have to have that item because he has that sustain on his 3. And so you
Yeah.
gotta the boxing matchup very much favors Ravana because of the stain that's built into his kit.
I think it depends, like because Ravana also doesn't synergize nearly as well with Death's Toll as those warriors with the cleaving auto attacks do, like the Osiris, like the Valona, like the Erlongshan, like even the Nike. But what he has always been, obviously, Ravan, is high early pressure. That's what he's always been known for whenever he was played in solo. And that is still the case, right? And you can still pressure into an Osiris even with a god like Ravan. And he played the matchup really well, in my opinion. And it's the combination of the pick that works well early and the matchup and his individual play that allowed him to solo Benji twice.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point I wanted to make. I'm not taking away anything away from Aquarius's performance in that matchup. There were a lot of factors in that particular matchup.
Yeah,
And so that's all I just wanted to clear that up.
yeah, that's good. So now I'm not sure if we should talk about this without Psycho here, but should we take a quick look back at our DreamHack predictions that we made at the start of the split and look at where we've gone now?
I believe we can. We can let Psycho talk about this next week when he's back. But for the two of us, I think we can review. I mean,
Yeah,
starting with our.
yeah.
Do you want
So
to start
start.
or should I start?
I can start with mine, at least my EU ones. So the teams that I was predicting to get through, just in general, are Dig, Obey, Enix, and NRG. And obviously, I think Enix has been knocked down a bit, and they're now still in contention for it, but they're gonna have a hard time getting to DreamHack over Rival, in my opinion. So I think that is
Yeah, Enix needs.
the one that I would probably change now, looking back at the first 3 weeks of play.
Enix can still realistically make DreamHack. They just need some help from somebody else. And like we touched on earlier, you don't want to put your fate in somebody else's hands, and that's what Enix has done. So it's very much on Enix needing to win out and have some help from somebody else.
Yeah. So what were yours
And then
for EU?
well, I had Dignitas, Obey, Energy, and then I said whoever won that split between Rival and Enix would make it. Obviously, Rival won, and so going further, I'm just going to say Rival is going to make it, along with Dignitas, Obey, and Energy. Um, Again, that Enix Rival set was one of the best sets of the summer split until Noble and E United played. But Rival was the 2-0 victor there, and so I see going forward Rival having the edge over Enix and making.
Yeah. So on the NA side, for me, I was predicting LG, ALG, and then the third spot to be decided between Eager and Monkey Madness. Obviously, the thing that I'm going to change right away is throw Eager out, or Team AI as they are now known, because their roster's different. They haven't found much success at all in the first 3 weeks, and it is very questionable whether they will make it to DreamHack, and it's leaning a lot more towards a no than towards a yes. So I think we have to throw Eager out of the equation, and we obviously have to include Noble nowadays because they have looked great this week. If they can continue this form, they have a serious shot at making DreamHack, especially considering, as we've already mentioned, the type of opposition they'll still be facing. So yeah, I think my new top 3 to make it would be LG, obviously, as the top dog, followed by MM, followed by Noble or ALG.
Yeah, mine was a little bit similar to yours. I had LG and Allegiance going to DreamHack initially. E United was going to join them. I think we can put E United out at this point. If they win out, they're in. Same thing with Noble. If Noble wins out, they're in. So I don't necessarily want to put E United out right now, even though the past 2 weeks suggest that they're not going to win out, that they're going to continue to struggle. Not so forth to putting them out as much as I am putting ALG out, even though ALG has a lead over them in the standings. ALG has one less set, and they've looked very inconsistent. Whereas E United, even in the games they lost, they have looked capable of winning those games if something goes their way.
See, the issue I have with calling E United for DreamHack right now is the opposition they're facing in combination to the problems that are plaguing them right now, because they're still gonna go against arguably the 2 top teams now in NA, LG and Monkey Madness, and I do not see them winning against those teams, and without that they are not gonna get the necessary points they need to make DreamHack.
From a spectator's point of view, I agree. From just looking at what is possible, trying to remain biased or unbiased, if they win out, they're in. That's deny points to looking at the teams they have to face. If they can find a win against LG and 2-0 LG, and then deny points to Monkey Madness, well as getting points themselves, with their last game being against Flashpoint, which should be an easy win for them. I say that, but with their struggles, it may not be. Looking at 3 points from Flashpoint, if they can 2-0 LG, which I don't know that that's possible. Don't think they do. But they could split with LG. I think that's very possible. And then if they 2-0 MM, you give them 7 points. And that takes them from 7 points to the 4 they already have. That makes them 11 points. And that puts them very much ahead of Monkey Madness if Monkey Madness does not 2-0 ALG this week. So it's very much a realistic possibility for E United to make it. They are going to have to play really well to be able to do it. But putting all that aside and making a prediction that I feel comfortable and safe in making, I'm going to put Luminosity, Monkey Madness, and Noble, just because Noble has the easiest of the remaining schedules of the teams that are vying for these last two spots. Because I think LG is pretty much wrapped up to go. Mathematically, they may not be wrapped up in it, or have had their DreamHack spot wrapped up, but I feel like Luminosity is the best team in NA, and that they should definitely be going to DreamHack at this point. The other two teams, like I said, MM and Noble, if MM cannot find the 2-0 against ALG, or if ALG 2-0's Noble, or 2-0's Monkey Madness, then ALG is definitely going, or is Monkey Madness is definitely out, and I can switch Monkey Madness with Allegiance. That the set coming up this week is important to both teams. DreamHack implications are very much on the line. Split doesn't help either of the teams. So it's whoever wins that matchup for me this week. And it has to be a 2-0. They cannot split. They cannot afford to split with each other. One team has to find the 2-0 over the other. If they don't 2-0 each other, then you can make the argument that E United or Gabe can sneak in above both of them. But Noble, if they continue to win and they win out, they're definitely in for me. So right now it's LG, Monkey Madness, and Noble.
Yeah,
Depending on what happens in that split this coming week, we'll tell you who else I pick.
Yeah, so we actually agree on the NA side, at least. Good. So I think that said it all. We're looking forward to this week's matches, especially that ALG against MM1. And I think that ends the show right here. We're also going to be tweeting out predictions for all of those matches on our Twitter account. You can see it on the screen right now at Tuesday Night Smite. If you're interested in hearing those, follow us there. We'll also update you on other stuff about the show. If you've been watching this on YouTube, please leave a subscription here or leave us a like. If you want to see more of our podcasts, subscribe to our account. You can also follow us on SoundCloud, where we will be uploading every new episode. Only the newest episode will be available there due to the time limit that SoundCloud has. But you can download those for free as well if you want to keep them for yourself. So yeah, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Sabo, for being here with me to record this one. And have a good night, everyone.
Let's just remind everybody that if you don't like what you hear and you think we can improve in some way, don't be afraid to leave us a comment. We do this because we enjoy to do it, not because we're getting paid or whatever. We want to put on the best show possibly for you. So just leave us the comments in the section down below. Write us on Reddit. Thank you for listening, but if we can improve somewhere, we're open to any and all suggestions.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that as well. That we always welcome feedback if we can get it. So thank you for providing that if you do, and hopefully we will see you next week as well.
Good night, good afternoon, and in case we don't see you, have a good week.
Yeah, good week.